title of the song, The Hearse, came from the experience that I had when we used to return from the burial place. So anytime that I buried any of my friends, we'd be returning back to the hood, and the songs that my niggas used to play, they used to be incredibly stimulated and violent, whereas I wanted to play something softer and a little more fragile, but that's not where they were at. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think that were trying to escape that fragility while I was trying to like run towards it. And so I titled the song The Hearse because I wanted it to be a soundtrack to what that feeling was like, what that rage feels like when you're leaving the burial place. I write songs the way that I used to write poetry, and it always begins with the concept. I have to know what I'm writing about, you know? It's like I think that that even dictates the melody, you know? It dictates the chords that I'm gonna choose. When I begin there, the song begins to tell me how to write it, you know? And how to structure it and what to use to protect it, what instruments to use to protect it, and how sparsely it needs to be presented, you know? I'm still learning how to tussle with grief. I'm still learning how to tussle with revenge. I read a quote once that grief is just love with no place to go. So it's like I'm attempting to find a place to position the love that I have, and like, you know, and not to suppress all of these things, but that suppression is natural as well. When I understand that, you know, and when I could look at it as something that's intrinsic to my mourning, that revenge is intrinsic to my mourning, and that grief is intrinsic to my mourning, then I could allow for it to be a part of my life and not something that I'm almost in combat with, you know? The feeling of revenge, it could be focused towards anything. Ultimately, when I think about revenge, I'm thinking about the people that I lost, but the best possible thing that I can do for them is preserve their memories. So I think about preservation over revenge, you know? And then when I think about grief, I think about the beauty of what grief can be as well. Even though this love has no place to go, that I can embody that love, that I can embody the people that I lost as well.
There's a war outside and I can't lose all my dogs. I can't choose right to wrong, right to wrong.
The inspiration behind the first few lyrics was what it felt like being in the hood. So there's a war outside and I can't lose all my dogs. It's like, it's so important that people understand that we are living in a state of emergency when we're in the hood, that we are living in a state of war. And it's easy to forget that, regardless of how much joy you're able to experience and, you know, the camaraderie of a community. If you're anticipating violence and if you're anticipating conflict, you're living in a war, you know? If I'm walking home every night and I'm thinking about the potential of a shooting, then I'm living in a war, you know? And I think that a lot of times people forget that, and they forget the lasting traumas that comes not with having experienced an actual shooting or being a shooting victim or having someone in your family that's a victim of a shooting. It's like just living and breathing and experiencing that in itself is trauma, just trauma by proxy, trauma by proximity.
We get it on and poppin', we were always poppin'. But you know how that A goes, you know how that K blows. We used to rock the same clothes.
The moment that you're an artist from the hood and you're coming up and you're doing well for yourself, that literally comes with the target. Not even a target on your back, a target on your chest, you know? Everyone is aware. And I think the target on the back implies that people don't know and that you don't know and that it's just subconscious, but it's not subconscious and it's not subtle. It's very apparent and it's very clear. When you're a young person in the hood, you are led to believe that it begins and ends there. And so you come to grips with that. A lot of times, you know, your dreams and your hopes, they just fall to the sidelines and you just kind of exist in this inner city complex. And the moments that someone transcends that, they are defying your hopelessness. They're defying the fact that you've given up your dreams, that you've given up your aspirations. People fear that, you know? That can be really harmful for other people in the hood. It's like, how is this person defying that? How is this person transcending that and going beyond what I thought was possible? And that develops into an envy and that develops into a hate. You have to know someone and love someone in order to hate them. I truly believe that. People felt so familiar with us that they felt like that obsession can develop into a hate. But I don't even believe that it was true hate, you know? I've never felt hate for someone that I didn't know. It had to feel personal because hate is a personal feeling.
And niggas made me wrap you in a white fold. And they gon' pay their price in blood. And that's on everything I know. On everything I know.
In Islam, you're not meant to bury anyone in suits, and you're not meant to bury them in anything but the white fold. You leave earth as you came into the earth, you know? So you came into the earth having nothing, and you leave earth having nothing as well. It's also about equalizing death and equalizing the passing process. That's why at Muslim cemeteries, there are no tombstones, because the thing is that you could see economic disparity between, and like, you know, obviously the financial disparity between how one person was buried and another person was buried in other cemeteries. But when you go to a Muslim cemetery, you don't know who was rich, you don't know who was poor, you don't know who was important, because every person is offered the same space and every person is offered the same regulation. So that's the same thing with the washing process. Every person is washed the same way, and they're all wrapped with the same white fold. I remember having to wrap my friend in that white fold, and it's like a memory that I think was like nothing else, you know, because my entire life I was aware of that process, and to have to engage in it was something I didn't think I'd have to do.
Swear I wasn't looking for no beef. I got a family to feed. There's room for everyone to eat. I was all about the peace. I didn't want to risk it all. Oh, I know what's at stake.
The best advice that I'd give to someone who's trying to avoid beef is to constantly remember that it's not worth it. I always question why people believe that their freedom is less significant than someone else's. If my friend is putting his life on the line, I'm gonna put my life on the line with my friend, you know? I never positioned myself in the hood in a way where I believed that I was any more important than the next person. And I think that people always have to remember that their freedom, that their ability to travel, their ability to walk outside with their nieces and nephews and their kids and their younger siblings, like, that is a luxury. People, they work their entire lives to create space for themselves to be able to do those very things. And so when you engage in beef and when you fuel beef, it's like it takes away the joys of what it means to live a life.
But you made yourself special. I wanna throw my life away for you.
There's been multiple circumstances where I was willing to throw it all away. And it's not something I take pride in. I think it's absolutely shameful and it's unfortunate, and it makes me sad that I thought so little of my life that I was willing to throw it away. And I think that it's almost like suicidal ideation almost, where it's just like, even if you don't want to like particularly kill yourself, if you're willing to throw away your freedom, that is a kind of death as well. And so I remember I was in a situation and I ended up in a cell, and I was alone, and I was praying, and I thought to myself, how did I get here? I thought to where I was a year prior, you know, traveling the world. It's like having conversations about like how to, you know what I mean, dismantle the systems that are keeping us in the hood. And then I ended up being a victim of that very thing. And I remember sitting in this cell, and I was singing a Donny Hathaway song. The guard was like, well, you got a pretty good voice over there. You should do something with it. It gave me a lot of time to reflect on the fact that I'm also vulnerable to that very thing. And also coming up and seeing the judge, and the judge just looking at me and seeing nothing. How little she thought of my life was how little I thought of my life when I was willing to throw my life away. And I realized that these are all feelings that are reflective of each other.
Full clip with zombie tips. I'll give all my days to you. Full speed on any street. I won't take a break to you. My patience and my peace. I'll feel all the rage for you. Ooh.
The hearse is about how I obsessed over people that I didn't like, and that I actually cared more about them and was more interested in them and their whereabouts and who they were than people that were in my life. These feelings, rage, the hatred, whatever it is, it comes from the heart, you know? So you've given your heart to this person, that I want to give my life to you. I want to like give my days to you. I'll drive anywhere for you. It's what you would say to someone that you love, you know? Honestly, the feeling is almost inseparable from the feeling of someone that you want to kill or you want to inflict harm on. It's like, I will hop in a car and I'll drive to where you are, you know? It's like even that patience and that peace of which I've developed over so much time, I'm willing to even sacrifice that in order to feel something else for you.
There's a war outside and I can't lose all my dogs. I can't choose right to wrong, right to wrong. With my dogs, right to wrong.
I Can't Choose Right or Wrong is probably the most significant lyric in the song for myself. Living and breathing, existing in the hood, it's not black and white. And people want to believe that it is because they don't want to think critically. You have to empathize with someone in order to offer them any critical thought, you know? And I think that people just want to simplify things and see things as one thing or the other. But nothing is that, you know? It's difficult to make a righteous decision when you're living in an inherently corrupt system. Making a righteous decision can feel like a contradiction. And so sometimes it feels like the only way to exist within that wrong is to do wrong. I believe that if the system, you know what I mean, if these inner city systems, this housing project that we exist in wasn't designed for us to stay within it and wasn't designed in a way that accounts for our deaths, then perhaps people can reflect a righteousness. But it's difficult to reflect righteousness where there is none, you know, and where you're also living in a state of survival. Therapy is not going to eliminate your gangster. All that therapy is going to do is help you understand why you're gangster, or help you understand why you're making the decisions that you're making. And it's so important that whatever it is that we do, we could understand like the lineage of why we're doing that. And we could trace it back to like a feeling, and we could trace it back to a thought, and we could trace it back to like a point of tension or a trauma. And that'll help us make more clear and concise decisions.